To understand the mechanics of Marxist theory, we first have to establish its philosophical control group. We have to look at the system it was built to replace, the idealism of Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel operated on a core premise that history is not a random sequence of events. Instead, it is the necessary, progressive self-unfolding of what he called the absolute idea, or spirit. This unfolding has a specific mechanism. Spirit externalizes itself into unconscious nature. Then, over millennia, it returns to itself through the development of human consciousness and human institutions. Hegel maintains that the dialectic is the internal necessity of reality itself, moving through history with the same rigor as a logical proof. Because the system is driven by an active, purposeful intelligence seeking self-actualization, human history has a mathematically guaranteed destination. It is pulled forward by a conscious engine. Karl Marx examined this massive, intricate philosophical structure and concluded that he found Hegel standing on his head. To make it useful, Marx argued, the system had to be set back on its feet. He achieved this by reassigning the base layer of reality. For Marx, the ultimate foundation is not the idea or the logos. The foundation is nature and social man acting upon it to survive. He stripped away the idealist theology, but he kept Hegel's dialectical engine, the idea that reality develops through internal contradictions and sublation, where old forms are destroyed, but their useful elements are preserved in a higher stage. With the spirit removed, Marx installed a new foundation to drive this engine, the process of material and economic production required to satisfy basic physical needs. Human labor replaces the absolute idea as the active force in the world. By working to survive, humans transform their natural environment, and in doing so, they create entirely new sets of social relations. By replacing a purposeful spirit with blind matter and human economics, Marx grounds philosophy in physical, observable reality. But he also creates a structural tension. Without an intelligent author guiding the plot, the theory has to explain exactly how and why history continues to move forward. Before we test that structure, we need to clear up a persistent academic myth. The rigid three-step formula of thesis, antithesis, synthesis is widely taught as the Hegelian or Marxist dialectic. In reality, that specific terminology belongs to the philosopher Fichte. Orthodox Marxists rarely use it. The true Marxist dialectic is the internal movement of material reality, driven by structural contradictions. We see this in alienation. A worker alienates himself by pouring labor into a physical product he does not own, trapped by the systems he builds. This creates an increasing pressure between the physical means of production and the social relations of private property. Because alienation is rooted in economics, it cannot be overcome in thought. It requires an objective social revolution. This is what separates Marx from Hegelian idealism. The resolution of the contradiction requires actual historical events that abolish the old property laws. This dialectic of production provides a rigorous explanation for localized social revolutions. However, when applied to the ultimate arc of all human history, the removal of Hegel's guiding spirit exposes a severe philosophical void. The bedrock ontological problem is one of emergence. If materialism claims matter is blind and purposeless, how does it evolve into complex social structures? Under Hegel, this wasn't an issue. Spirit had a built-in ultimate goal it was working toward. But if we accept that the universe is just physics, how can a liberated stage like communism necessarily emerge from it? To address this gap, Marx's closest collaborator, Friedrich Engels, attempted a massive theoretical expansion. Engels formulated the dialectics of nature. He claimed that matter itself is autodynamic. It isn't inert. It operates by general, inherent laws of dialectical movement. He extended the dialectic far beyond human economics, arguing that these same laws of contradiction govern the hard natural sciences and biological evolution. This was a departure from the original project. For Marx, nature was defined specifically as the raw material for human transformation and labor. By attempting to make nature itself dialectical, Engels introduced a structural ambiguity that would eventually force a choice between two irreconcilable interpretations of history. Engel's expansion forces Marxist theory to choose between two conflicting conclusions. The first is the trap of mechanical materialism. If matter operates by what Engels called iron necessity, then the historical process is a deterministic machine. In this scenario, conscious revolutionary agency is sidelined. We are simply observing an inevitable sequence of events. The second horn of the paradox is the trap of disguised idealism. If matter actively strives toward higher organization and human liberation, then matter isn't blind. The theory has simply smuggled Hegel's conscious spirit back into the system under a different name. By the 20th century, Marxist thinkers like George Lukács recognized this structural ambiguity. The core of the philosophy was threatening to fragment into either fatalism or theology. Severing the ontology from the logic leaves classical Marxism balancing precariously between the idea of history as a machine and the idea of history as a hidden intelligence. In the mid-20th century, a group of existentialist philosophers proposed a new interpretation of the dialectic to address this problem of nature. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that treating the dialectic as a celestial law imposed on the universe from the outside causes the entire theory to collapse back into Hegelian idealism. Maurice Merleau-Ponty took a complementary stance. Inert matter, existing entirely outside of human perception and human use, cannot logically sustain a dialectic. Their proposed solution was praxis. They argued the dialectic exists exclusively within concrete human intersubjectivity and labor. It is a property of human action, not a property of rocks or trees. Without humans actively projecting themselves into the future, material history is entirely blind and directionless. Nature's gears do not work toward social goals. This circles back to the core of the materialist flip. Hegel's logic of identity and difference was moved out of the realm of pure thought and into the specific requirements of human labor. By removing the absolute idea, Marxism demands that history has no pre-programmed author. There is no inedible arc. The dialectic relies entirely on unguided human action to forge the future.